CEO took her silent daughter to the beach, froze. When a single dad spoke to the girl in sign language, the OC wordees carried whispers of freedom across the shore. But Alexandra Sterling's heart raced with fear. Her silent daughter stood frozen in the sand, watching strangers build castles. When the man's hands began to move in a forgotten language, everything Alexandra thought she knew about love and loss unraveled. Alexandra Sterling was a woman who had mastered control. At 38, she sat at the helm of a Boston-based tech company, her name printed in glossy magazines beside headlines like "The Woman Who Redefined Leadership." Yet all the accolades meant little in the quiet spaces of her home, where silence lived like an uninvited guest. Her daughter, Bella, 7 years old with dark curls that refused to stay brushed, had stopped speaking 2 years earlier, not because she couldn't, but because words had abandoned her after the divorce. Alexandra tried to fill the void with everything she knew: therapy appointments, new schools, even piano lessons. Still, Bella retreated deeper into her silent world. Today was supposed to be different. Alexandra had promised herself she would step away from conference calls and deadlines, trading boardrooms for the simple expanse of Ocean View Beach. She wanted to give Bella more than schedules and chauffeured rides. She wanted to give her presence. But as the ocean spread wide before them, Alexandra felt out of place. The heels she hadn't bothered to change from this morning's investor meeting sank awkwardly into the sand. Bella, barefoot and unbothered, drifted toward the tide pools, her eyes fixed on two strangers who seemed to belong entirely to this place. A man with sun-browned skin and a boy her age, digging with plastic shovels. Alexandra opened her mouth to call Bella back to remind her of the rule: stay close. But then she noticed the stillness of her daughter's posture, the kind of captivated stillness she hadn't seen in months. And for once, Alexandra didn't interrupt. She watched. The strangers were building a castle, not a haphazard pile of sand, but an intricate structure, walls thick and strong, towers balanced with care. The man worked slowly, guiding his son's eager hands, correcting when the moat flooded, laughing when waves stole a tower. His patience stood in sharp contrast to Alexandra's rushed, restless world. Bella stood just a few feet away now, frozen as if tethered by invisible strings. Her eyes tracked every movement of the boy's hands, every deliberate placement of wet sand. Alexandra noticed something in her daughter's fingers too, a small, almost imperceptible twitch, as if they longed to move. Then the moment shattered her. The man lifted his head, caught Bella's gaze, and began to sign. His hands moved deliberately, fingers carving meaning into air, each motion fluid like water rolling over stone. For a second, Alexandra's chest filled with ice. She recognized the language, though imperfectly. Sign language. The very bridge she had once promised to build with Bella, and abandoned. Bella's transformation was breathtaking. Her body, once small and withdrawn, opened like a flower turning toward light. Her hands lifted, quick and certain, answering him. It was as though a door had been unlocked. Alexandra's breath stilled as her daughter's silence filled with connection, with joy, with words she herself could not understand. The man's son noticed too. He looked at Bella, grinned wide, and shuffled over, tugging her into the world of castles and seashells without hesitation. Laughter, silent, contagious, danced between the children as their hands moved in perfect rhythm, and Alexandra, CEO, strategist, master of control, stood useless, watching her daughter come alive in the language of strangers, while she herself remained outside, exiled by choices she'd made. Alexandra's phone buzzed insistently in her palm, the screen flashing with the name of her company's CFO. A quarterly crisis waiting on her attention. But for the first time in years, she didn't answer. Her gaze was locked on Bella, her Bella kneeling in wet sand, alive with motion. It felt surreal. The girl who barely scribbled on notes at home, who never looked up from her sketchbook at restaurants, was now lit with energy. Her face glowed, her hands danced, her entire body spoke. Alexandra's instinct screamed, protect her. Who were these people? What if they said the wrong thing? What if Bella was hurt? But another truth settled heavy in her chest. Bella wasn't afraid. Not in the slightest. The man rose to his feet when Alexandra approached, brushing sand from his knees. His presence was steady, not imposing. Weathered, kind eyes met hers. He extended a calloused hand. Carter Rodriguez, he said simply. And that's my son, Lucas. Alexandra hesitated only a moment before taking his hand. His grip was strong, grounded, a stark contrast to the fleeting, distracted handshakes of investors. Alexandra Sterling, she replied, her voice betraying a flicker of uncertainty. She gestured to Bella, who was busy showing Lucas how to line seashells along the castle wall. And that's my daughter, Bella. Her eyes dropped to his hands. You sign. Carter nodded softly. My wife taught me. She believed every child deserves to be heard no matter how they speak. Alexandra felt her throat tighten. The past tense in his words hung heavy. Wife, taught, believed. Behind them, Bella giggled silently, her small hands moving quick as fireflies in twilight, and Alexandra realized she hadn't seen her daughter this happy in years. The children worked side by side, their rhythm unforced as if they had always known each other. Lucas chattered aloud, translating Bella's signs with a natural ease. She says the castle needs a bridge, Dad, and maybe a tower taller than mine. Carter smiled, adjusting the sand walls. She's probably right. Towers are her specialty. Alexandra lowered herself onto the sand, her expensive skirt brushing against saltwater grit. She didn't care. Her eyes stayed fixed on Bella, drinking in every movement. For months she had searched for the key to her daughter's silence, and here, with strangers, the lock had turned effortlessly. Your son, she said softly, almost to herself. He's remarkable with her. Carter's smile shifted, touched by something deeper. He grew up with it. My wife, Maria, was a teacher. Deaf education. Lucas spent more time in her classroom than on playgrounds. Signing became normal. Alexandra's chest tightened again at the name. Maria. The absence lingered in Carter's tone, heavy with grief. She wanted to ask more, but silence pressed between them, filled only by the sound of waves and children's laughter. Finally, Alexandra spoke. I tried once, to learn. She dug her nails into her palm. But work got busy. I convinced myself Bella was fine with writing notes with gestures. Her words sounded flimsy even to her own ears. Carter's gaze was steady, not judging, only patient. Maria used to tell me, sometimes silence isn't absence. It's a bridge waiting for someone brave enough to cross. Alexandra swallowed hard, shame and longing colliding inside her. And in the distance, Bella signed something toward her. Alexandra froze. She didn't understand. Carter glanced, then translated gently. She's asking if you're happy, Alexandra. The question sliced deeper than any boardroom defeat ever had. Alexandra didn't answer. She couldn't. Her daughter's question hung in the air, fragile as sea glass. Are you happy? How could she explain to a child what happiness even meant anymore? Her life was a string of victories on paper and emptiness at night. She fought battles in suits and silence at home. Happiness was a luxury she hadn't touched in years. Bella tilted her head, waiting, but Alexandra only forced a smile. Her chest burned with the weight of her daughter's unspoken wisdom. Children had a way of seeing the cracks adults hid. Carter broke the silence gently. Kids notice things we think they don't. Lucas asked me the same question after Maria died. I didn't know how to answer either. His voice lowered, steady but aching. Sometimes silence is safer than truth. Alexandra turned to study him. The lines in his face weren't from age alone, but from years of carrying sorrow. Yet there was kindness there, too. A steadiness she envied. Bella, impatient, tugged Lucas back to the castle, signing rapidly. Lucas grinned, explaining. She wants a moat. A big one. The sound of his laughter carried across the waves, breaking something loose inside Alexandra. She realized how rare it was to hear a child sound that free. She glanced at Carter again, her voice barely above a whisper. She's been so quiet since the divorce. I thought she was coping. Carter nodded knowingly. Sometimes quiet means coping. Sometimes it means waiting. Alexandra looked at Bella, who was now up to her elbows in wet sand, joy radiating from her. Waiting, Alexandra realized, for this moment. The afternoon light shifted, painting the water in strokes of silver and gold. Alexandra sat with her knees drawn up, watching her daughter. Really watching her. Bella's joy was uncontained. She signed quickly, her hands moving faster than Alexandra could follow. She's telling Lucas a story. Carter explained quietly beside her. About a mermaid who lives under the lighthouse. Alexandra blinked, stunned. Her daughter had stories, entire worlds hidden inside her hands, and she had been missing them all. Carter's gaze softened. You could learn, you know. The words hit Alexandra like a wave. Learn. She had told herself for years it was too late, that Bella had adjusted fine. But seeing her now lit up with a language Alexandra couldn't speak, it no longer felt fine. It felt like failure. I don't even know where to start, she admitted. Her voice cracked in ways it never did at work. Carter's reply was simple. Start here. One word at a time. Silence stretched between them, but it was a softer silence now, one filled with possibility. Then, as though reading her mother's thoughts, Bella turned, her small fingers signing deliberately toward Alexandra. She hesitated, panic rising. She didn't understand. She's asking, Carter translated gently, if you want to help with the castle. The invitation was simple, but Alexandra felt her throat tighten. Her daughter hadn't asked her to join in months. Not like this. Forgetting her skirt, her heels, her world of polished glass towers, Alexandra sank onto the sand beside Bella. She scooped wet sand into her hands, clumsy but eager. Bella's smile in response was brighter than the setting sun, and for the first time in years Alexandra wasn't CEO Sterling. She was just Bella's mom. As the tide crept closer, their castle took shape. Walls reinforced, seashells lining the towers, tiny windows carved by small fingers. Lucas announced proudly, "It needs a flag." He sprinted off, returning with a stick and a scrap of seaweed. Bella clapped her hands together in delight, her laughter silent but loud in spirit. Alexandra knelt beside her daughter, hands covered in sand, hair whipped by the wind. She felt lighter than she had in years. Watching Bella shine so brightly was like watching dawn break after a long, endless night. Carter glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. Maria used to say castles don't last, but the memories do. That's why we keep building them. The name lingered again, Maria. Alexandra found herself whispering, "She sounds extraordinary." She was. His voice carried both grief and gratitude. She taught me that language isn't just words. It's presence, connection, that's what lasts. The waves hissed, erasing tiny trenches in the sand. Alexandra stared at the sea, realizing how much she had let go unnoticed. Her own daughter had been reaching out all along and she hadn't been listening. Bella tugged her sleeve, signing quickly. Alexandra panicked, then glanced at Carter for help. She sang, "This is the best day," Carter translated softly. The words struck Alexandra harder than any boardroom verdict ever had. Her daughter's best day hadn't come from expensive tutors or perfectly planned outings. It had come from a castle in the sand, built with strangers who spoke the language of her heart. And Alexandra knew deep down, her life was about to change forever. Evening shadows stretched long across the sand as gulls circled overhead. The children kept working, though their castle now stood dangerously close to the tide. Alexandra brushed damp hair from Bella's forehead, memorizing the way her daughter's eyes gleamed. Carter watched too, his gaze carrying a quiet pride. "Maria would have loved this," he murmured. Alexandra turned to him, curiosity breaking through her usual restraint. "Tell me about her." His eyes softened, though his jaw tightened at the memory. Maria was a teacher. She taught children who were deaf or hard of hearing. She believed language was freedom, not just for speaking, but for being seen. He paused, exhaling slowly. When cancer came, it stole her strength and her voice, but not her wisdom. She spent those 3 years teaching me everything she could. His hand brushed the castle wall, steady even as his voice cracked. "She used to tell me, Carter, one day you'll meet a child who needs someone to listen. Don't miss them." Alexandra swallowed hard, her chest aching at the devotion etched into every word. This wasn't a man reciting tragedy. This was a man living a promise. Bella signed something quickly to Lucas, who burst out laughing. Alexandra leaned toward Carter for translation. "She said the castle needs a dragon to guard it," he explained, a smile tugging at his mouth. Alexandra laughed softly, the sound surprising her. It had been so long since laughter came easy. The tide surged closer, foamy waves licking the moat's edges. Bella squealed silently, grabbing more sand to reinforce the wall, and Alexandra thought, maybe for the first time, she wasn't just watching her daughter live. She was living too. The sun sank lower, streaking the sky in pink and orange. Families began packing up towels and coolers, but Alexandra and Bella lingered. The castle still stood, fragile against the sea, a monument to the hours they'd shared. Carter settled onto the sand, his hands resting loosely on his knees. "Lucas and I come here every Saturday," he said. "17th castle this year." Alexandra tilted her head. "Why here?" "Because here," he said simply, "I can remember without being swallowed." Maria loved this beach. And Lucas? Well, he deserves memories that don't hurt. Alexandra studied him, her heart heavy. He had built a life from loss. She, on the other hand, had built walls of steel around her pain. She realized suddenly how alone Bella must have felt, navigating a world where even her own mother couldn't understand her. Bella signed something again, small hands moving deliberately. Alexandra's heart raced. She glanced at Carter. "She's asking if you're sad," he translated softly, "and if she can give you a hug." The words cracked Alexandra's composure like glass. Her throat tightened, tears burning behind her eyes. She opened her arms without hesitation. Bella ran into them, her body warm and trembling with excitement. Alexandra held her close, breathing in the salt and sunshine tangled in her daughter's curls. In that embrace, Alexandra realized something devastating. Bella had been carrying both their silences. She had been comforting her mother all along, and maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late to learn how to comfort her back. As twilight deepened, Alexandra sat with Bella in her lap, both of them facing the waves. For once, she didn't think about emails waiting in her inbox or meetings on Monday. She thought about hands, her daughters, moving with grace and urgency. Carter's steady and practiced. Her own motionless and unknowing. "I don't want to miss this anymore," she whispered. Carter turned, his expression open. "I should have learned sign language years ago. I told myself Bella was fine, that she didn't need me to know." Alexandra's voice broke, raw and unguarded. "But she did. She still does." Carter's reply was gentle but firm. "The best time to learn was when she was born. The second best time is now." His words lodged deep, more powerful than any motivational speech Alexandra had ever heard. Bella looked up, sensing the weight in her mother's voice. She signed something small, almost shy. Alexandra looked to Carter. "She's asking if you'll try," he translated. Alexandra's tears finally fell, sliding down her cheeks. She took her daughter's hands gently in her own. "Yes," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'll try. Every day." Bella's smile, pure, unguarded, was worth more than any deal Alexandra had ever closed. In that moment, as the tide pulled closer and the castle's towers began to crumble, Alexandra made her silent vow. She would learn, not just the language of her daughter's hands, but the language of presence, of slowing down, of listening. For the first time in years, she felt not like a CEO, but like a mother finding her way home. The waves finally claimed their masterpiece. One by one, the castle's walls caved, towers sinking into the sea. Lucas sighed dramatically. "Every time," he muttered, hands on his hips. Carter chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. "That's the point, bud. Castles aren't meant to last. Memories are?" Bella watched silently, her small hands reaching for the foam as it bubbled away. Alexandra studied her daughter's face, bracing for disappointment. But instead, Bella signed quickly, her eyes bright. "She says," Carter translated, smiling, "it's okay. We can always build another." Alexandra exhaled, her heart catching at the resilience in her daughter's spirit. Perhaps Bella had known something all along that she herself had forgotten. Life was not about permanence, but about presence. The sky deepened into indigo, the lighthouse in the distance flickering to life. Carter stood, brushing sand from his jeans. "Lucas and I should get going." A pang of something sharp tugged at Alexandra's chest. She wasn't ready for this moment to end. For the first time in years, she felt connected, not just to Bella, but to someone who understood what it meant to live inside silence and still choose joy. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice trembling. "For today, for showing me what I've been missing." Carter's gaze lingered on hers, steady and kind. "You did the hard part, Alexandra. You showed up." Bella tugged her mother's hand, then signed something that made Carter smile. "She wants to know if we'll see each other again." Alexandra's throat tightened. She turned to Carter, the question hanging silently between them. And for once, she hoped the answer was yes. The walk back to the parking lot felt slower than Alexandra expected. Bella skipped ahead with Lucas, their silent chatter spilling into the evening air like music only they could hear. Alexandra followed behind with Carter, the distance between them filled with unspoken thoughts. "I'm not good at asking for help," Alexandra admitted quietly. The words felt foreign on her tongue. "But I think I need it." "Bella needs it." Carter's expression softened. "Then you're already ahead of most people." Recognizing it, that's the hardest part. She hesitated, then asked, Would you teach me? Just the basics at first, so I can talk to her the way she deserves." Carter nodded without pause. "Of course. Maria would have wanted that." They reached the cars, parked a few spaces apart. Lucas gave Bella a dramatic bow, making her laugh silently before hopping into Carter's truck. Bella clung to Alexandra's side, her face still lit with joy. Alexandra opened the door to her sleek black sedan, glancing at Carter one last time. The headlights from another car flickered over his face, revealing the faintest smile, a mix of hope and memory. "Next Saturday?" he asked simply. Alexandra found herself smiling back. "Next Saturday." As Bella buckled into her seat, she signed something Alexandra didn't understand. Carter leaned closer through the open window. She said, "Best friends." And for the first time in years, Alexandra's heart didn't feel heavy. It felt full. The week that followed was unlike any Alexandra had known. Instead of filling evenings with spreadsheets and strategy calls, she cleared her schedule. She downloaded beginner sign language apps, practiced in front of the mirror, fumbled through finger-spelled words at the breakfast table. Bella watched curiously, correcting her mother's clumsy attempts with patient giggles. It wasn't easy. Alexandra felt awkward, exposed. The woman who had commanded boardrooms with flawless confidence now struggled to remember the sign for good morning. But Bella's delight at every attempt kept her going. By Friday night, Alexandra realized something remarkable. Bella wasn't just responding, she was teaching. The child who had retreated into silence was now guiding, correcting, encouraging. Their roles had shifted, and Alexandra welcomed it. Saturday arrived with a nervous flutter in Alexandra's chest. She and Bella returned to Ocean View Beach, a picnic basket in hand instead of a briefcase. Lucas greeted Bella like they'd known each other forever, dragging her back to the tide pools before Alexandra had set down the blanket. Carter joined her, carrying a thermos of coffee. "How's the practice going?" he asked. "Humbling," Alexandra admitted, smiling. "But worth every mistake." She demonstrated clumsily, signing thank you. Carter grinned, correcting her wrist angle. "Close, but you're getting there." The children returned with arms full of shells, launching straight into castle building. Bella signed to Lucas, and Lucas translated. "She says today's castle will be even better." Carter chuckled. "She's competitive." "I like that." Alexandra watched her daughter glowing with life, and for the first time, she believed she could keep up, not as CEO Sterling, but as Bella's mother, the one who finally chose to listen. Over the weeks, a rhythm formed. Saturdays at the beach became sacred. Bella and Lucas built castles, raced the tide, swapped stories only their hands could tell. Alexandra and Carter sat nearby, sipping coffee, sharing pieces of themselves they rarely spoke aloud. Alexandra learned more than words. She learned to pause, to sit in silence without filling it with emails or agendas, to listen with her eyes, not just her ears. Every new sign was a victory, every shared smile with Bella a treasure. One evening, after Bella had fallen asleep in the back seat, Alexandra lingered in the driveway, staring at her daughter's peaceful face. She realized something she hadn't admitted aloud. Bella wasn't broken. She never had been. The brokenness had been Alexandra's inability to meet her where she was, and now she was learning. Slowly, clumsily, but with love, Carter's words often echoed in her mind. Castles don't last. Memories do. She wanted Bella's memories to be of a mother who tried, who showed up, who spoke the language of her heart. As the weeks turned into months, Alexandra's world changed. Work still mattered, but it no longer defined her. Bella did. Their Saturdays became the anchor she had never realized she needed. And each time Bella signed, "I love you," slow, patient, waiting for Alexandra to respond, her hands grew steadier. Because she wasn't just building castles anymore, she was building a bridge. Autumn arrived, brushing the beach with crisp winds and amber skies. One Saturday, Bella ran ahead, her laughter silent but bright as she signed excitedly to Lucas about building their biggest castle yet. Alexandra followed with Carter, the sand cool beneath her feet. She watched her daughter race toward the tide, hair streaming, hands alive with motion. For years she had feared this silence. Now she saw it for what it was, a language, a gift, a doorway. Carter handed her a shell. "She's thriving," Alexandra nodded, her throat thick. "Because someone finally listened." They knelt together in the sand, helping the children build. The towers rose higher, the moat deeper. Bella turned suddenly, signing something to her mother. Alexandra paused, then slowly, carefully signed back. The motion wasn't perfect, but Bella's face lit up like sunrise. She leapt forward, wrapping sandy arms around her mother's neck. Alexandra held her close, tears slipping freely down her cheeks. Carter watched quietly, his smile carrying both pride and memory. Maria's promise lived on in this moment, through his hands, through Lucas, through Bella and her mother finally finding their way to each other. The tide would come. The castle would fall. But Alexandra knew now, love wasn't about what lasted. It was about what was built in the time given. And on that beach, with sand between her fingers and her daughter's arms around her, Alexandra realized she had been given a second chance. This time she wouldn't waste it. Sometimes, the walls we build to protect ourselves only keep us from the love waiting on the other side. Alexandra learned that language isn't always spoken. It's shown, it's shared, it's lived. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like, and press the bell icon for more.